I reckon I can state now that the thing I like sewing the most is dresses. Dresses are quite dear to purchase, and if you want to have a few of them, you won't be able to, or I wasn't able to, and that's why I started sewing. Sewing was such a good option to have loads of different dresses and to learn about different styles and recreate things you see on the high street. And I think it's amazing. You feel amazing when you are able to create something new, something from scratch, and add your personal touches with some different materials. And lately I've been seeing lots of dresses with big collars, and even though I used to hate them when I was small and my mom used to get these blouses with big collars to wear, I think it would be nice to have one of my own with some personal touches that make it a bit more different. And I think a classy dress for Christmas lunch, for Christmas Day, would be really nice. The dress looks quite simple, but stay with me because it has lots of different details. The skirt is just a gather skirt, which is quite easy, but I'm going to pattern match the sides so it looks cohesive. Apart from that, the bodice I'm going to make from my own block of measurements from scratch, and I'm going to pattern match the back, in which I'm going to insert an invisible zipper. Apart from that, the sleeves are going to be quite simple 3/4 sleeves because I don't like longer sleeves, and even if I like them, I live in Tenerife and it gets quite warm. And apart from that, the collar is the bit that I'm a bit more scared about because I've never done anything similar. So I'll be tracing the pattern from scratch. I'll do my best from my blocks of measurements as well. Apart from that, the collar is going to have a rickrack ribbon and some facings as well to hide the seam. And my choice of fabric is this lovely and really soft woolen material. It's quite thin, it doesn't wrinkle, and I got it since August, I think. It's really nice. It was on offer, so I had to get it. It was only €4 a meter. I got 2 meters. I knew it was going to be a dress. I didn't know what sort of dress, but now we know. And I think it's going to be really nice. It's in black, but it's this sort of washed black. It's not a really dark black, if you know what I mean. And I love the design. I'm not sure right now if this is plaid or gingham, or you'll tell me. I'm going to start tracing the bodice, keeping the back open to place the zipper in. The ruffles are simply 2 rectangles of material sewn together, gathered, and then sewn to each other and to the bodice. Once I have my sleeves, I can sew them together, hem them with the elastic band, and sew them to the dress. And for the collar, I need 4 pieces of material that I'm going to sew in 2s, sandwiched with a rickrack ribbon. Of course, for the bodice, I'm going to be using my block of measurements. I leave you the link here if you want to create your own. And I'm going to be tracing it down to my waistline. Instead of making darts, I'm going to just trace a diagonal line from the armhole to the waistline, and that way I don't have to make darts. It works for me. I do it quite a lot because that way I don't have to make cuts in the pattern and try to match it, and it looks quite nice, and the material is quite flowy, so it's going to work quite nicely as well. Tell me what you think, if it works for you. It works for me because I'm not heavily breasted, but tell me what you think. And to trace the back, I'm going to make sure I am careful to trace it taking into account the pattern matching. I want to pattern match. The zipper goes in the middle, so I can't just cut one piece of back bodice and just cut it in half, because then you are cutting some of the pattern. So what I'm going to do is to trace it in twos. I'm going to trace one, and once I have that, I'll trace the other one, taking into account the zipper. I think it's lovely to pattern match your garments, because it's the different to fast fashion. I think it's just that little bit extra detail, and you can see something that's made with love, something that's thoughtful, and not something just bought for the sake of buying. Because the material is so thin, I'm going to allow myself to serge it once I finish everything with only 3 threads. I've been told to serge it properly, you don't need the 4th one. So I'm going to do it after I've sewn it together, because I think it's going to be okay, there won't be a problem. And for the ruffles of the skirt, I'm going to use from selvage edge to selvage edge. The row was 1.40 m, it's 1.40 m wide, so I'm going to use those, so that way I don't have to serge down at the skirt. The skirt is short knee length, you'll do it as you wish, of course, and I'm going to make 2 ruffles. One is going to be 35 centimeters with 2 centimeters seam allowance, and the other one only 15, but I'm going to take into account, I'm going to leave the hem. The sleeves won't be a problem either, because I have my block of measurements, and I'm going to leave them quite loose because I want to put an elastic band on the bottom, and that way they'll stay in place. And now the collar. The collar is making me a bit more nervous because I haven't made one before, and I haven't looked it up because I like doing things not my way, but try to do it and then just adjust or look up information in case it doesn't turn out great, to see what I did wrong. But at first I like to have a go at it, because I think I get it more in my mind, like I suck it all up, all that information. So I'm going to, because the collar goes from front to back, I think if I put the 2 blocks of measurement, the 2 bodice blocks, one against the other, I can trace all around it, and the little gap will be your shoulder curve, I think. So that way it will work, supposedly. And because I have them, I'm going to use my French curves. If you don't have one of these, just trace around the neckline the measurement you like, because this is you do it as you like. So let's see how it works. And to cut the collar, I could try to pattern match with the front bodice, putting the front bodice on top and trace it all around it, and that way you don't see the collar, but you see it because it has the rickrack ribbon. But instead of that, I'm going to twist it so it goes on the bias and the squares go sideways. I think it's nice, and it's a different touch. I'm going to start sewing all the side seams, trying to pattern match those lines. It's quite easy to match because it's just those lines so it looks cohesive and nice, and I'm going to try to do it all around the dress, on the side seams, and of course the sleeves as well. I think it's something, maybe it's something a bit silly because maybe you can't do it, but if you pattern match it when you're moving your arm, you will see a nice line all around it instead of a twisted one. So I think it's worth trying. And for the ruffle, the first ruffle, for example, only has one seam because it goes from selvage edge to selvage edge. And what I'm going to do is leave it on the back because the zipper will go in the skirt a little bit, a few centimeters, so that way I don't have to open any other. Once the ruffles are sewn, it's time to gather them, and to gather you need to sew 2 lines of stitches and leave them open so you can pull and make it smaller, make it gather it so it has the same measurement to the panel on top, or the bodice in this case. So I'm going to do that. I've been told you can also use top stitching thread or jeans thread to do this. I'm not going to waste jeans thread in this. I'm going to do it just with the 2 threads method. Gathering takes so long. I should get the gathering foot. Has anyone got it? Is it useful? Well, of course it's useful because it gathers for you, but I will have to go to the proper Singer or Alpha shop because they don't have it here in haberdasheries. Do they sell them in haberdasheries where you live? It's funny when you're sewing because when you see the things on the table, the pieces, it looks so bad, it looks terrible because everything is in pieces and it looks like it hasn't got any shape at all. But trust the process, it's going to turn out okay. So now that I have bodies and the 2 ruffles, I'm going to start layering pieces and sewing them together. And to sew together the first panel of the skirt with the bodice, I'm going to wrap the skirt with the bodice. Why this way? Because the bodice is open all the way to the back where the zipper goes, and it's easier to do it this way. Look for a better way to do it, but in this case for me, I think this is going to work just fine. And for the collar with the rickrack, I'm a bit nervous, so I'm going to baste, of course, and then I'm not going to sandwich everything at once. I'm going to sew one layer first with the rickrack and then the top, so then I can see how I'm doing.
Of course, you didn't finish watching me basting because the battery ran out.
Now that I can see that I'm doing okay, I'm going to sew the other layer of the collar and I'm going to put it underneath with the one I've previously sewn with the rickrack on top, and that way, even though the thread is black, I can see where I sewed, so I can follow that seam again. Wow, such a difference a bit of pressing makes. Amazing. I'm in love with it, and I love the color. It's not the typical white one, so it gives it a bit of a edgy look, which I like. And I'm going to sew this on top of the dress as it is, and then I'll be hiding them with facings. Oh, I haven't cut the facings. Thank goodness I have more fabric. What a mess. It got late, it's late at night, we just had dinner and I'm going to give it a last push so I can finish it today. And one thing is that, well, this dress has a lot of details and that's why it's taking me a bit longer, not that long, but a bit longer. And one thing I forgot about was to cut the facings, and I'm going to make a whole facing that is going to be just cut at the zipper line. And what I'm going to do is to just trace it from the dress, copying the neckline so I can trace it well. With my facing cut, I'm going to place it on top of the collar, right sides together, and that way when I push it in, everything will be hidden. I like facings a lot because it's a nice and discreet way of hemming something, finishing something nicely, and very discreet as well. And of course, if you're not sure about making it just with pins, you can also baste it. Facings look lovely because they hide everything, but they don't stay in place. And there are two tricks to make them stay in place, and one of them is to understitch and the other one is to secure on the shoulder seams. But first, the one that goes all around the neckline, which is the understitch. And for that, when you have your facing, it goes inside. But before that, we're going to open it and sew all on top of the facing, taking into account that we want the seam as well. All these edges, these raw edges, are going to become part of this understitch. And for this, I always use a zigzag stitch because it takes more of that seam inside and it gives it more strength, in my opinion. And the second tip to secure a facing is on the shoulder seam. This is the sleeve, the shoulder seam and the collar. So the facing is already inside, and sewing on top of the seam, it's completely invisible, and that way you keep it secure in there. Last time I used this one and it was amazing. Let's see if today it's the same, because those things you never know. When things will work and they don't. I'm not going to lie, I never do. I had a few problems while sewing it. It's quite a thin material, so it's very slippery, of course, and it rips easily if you want to get rid of a seam. So that was a bit of an issue. Another thing is that it doesn't fray a lot, but it did while I was trying to gather it. So I'm going to serge it now when I finish talking to you. I won't forget. But yes, it frayed quite a lot on the gathering seams. The zipper was a bit difficult to sew because the fabric stretches a little bit, so every time I try to sew it, the horizontal lines of the pattern wouldn't match. So it took me 3 times with pins and basting to put it together properly. And even though I could horizontally, I didn't realize that was my mistake when cutting the fabric, that the middle bit, as you can see, is narrower than the side. So I didn't take that into account when cutting the fabric. But anyways, and another thing is that I should have put a longer zipper, because it takes me a while to get in and out of this dress, but it's something I can work with. Another thing is the collar. I'm really pleased with how the collar turned out, but I think I could do with less fabric, if you know what I mean. Maybe I shouldn't have added that shoulder bit I did. Maybe I should have put the shoulders together while tracing it, but I haven't done any before, so I'm quite happy with it. And another thing is that, of course, I love the rickrack ribbon because it was my grandma's. It's from my grandma's shop. It was only 1 meter left, so I'm quite pleased I was able to use it. And I think it gives it a really nice touch. As always, I'll be looking forward to reading your comments, any tips, any comments about the sewing, the tracing, anything you would like to say, you're more than welcome. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you've got this far, because I upload a video once a week and liking really helps the channel. And don't go just yet, because I leave you here a few videos about autumn dresses, autumn winter dresses, like the floral one you've seen me, the whole video, and a beautiful tweed dress I made only 2 weeks ago. So stay around, I'm going to get this off and serge it. So see you around.